Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of episode 11 of You Can't Comp This podcast. As always, it's myself, Russell Gibson, with Adam Amy, and this episode is 100% focused on breaking down every trade from the trade deadline. We're going to look at the team perspective, we're going to look at the trade value perspective, and we're also going to look at, of course, card value, what's happening in that space there. So a lot to cover, and that's why we broke it up into 2 episodes. So the first trade we're going to get into is Bol going from the Celtics to the Magic. Enjoy, guys.
February 10.
Yeah.
Your boy, Bol on the move again.
Yes, this actually, I'm a little bit surprised about this, but also not surprised. So Boston did a whole lot of salary shedding, and they're now under the salary cap. Sorry.
Okay.
Luxury tax.
Yeah. So they're just maneuvering for financial reasons.
Yeah. So I think that, I'll really quickly just go through the Celtics. That means to me they're not trying to make a deep playoff run this year. But it's also really interesting because apparently there's 10 teams that are seriously deep into the luxury tax and 20 teams that seek to gain a massive windfall. So that's why there's been a lot of people who are trying to shed salary at the moment. So Boston doing that, essentially it's like a $25 million, instead of paying luxury tax, you're getting money put back into your pocket. So even though you're losing these 2 little prospects, and they lost a couple of other guys too, but that's really what this trade is about. In terms of, Orlando and getting assets, they've really got a young, loaded team that's just exciting now. I think there's so much.
There'll be some fun to have.
Yeah, that's right. I love League Pass, and Orlando's already on my League Pass. But once Bol comes back, to me, that's just, if he's playing in their rotation, that's must watch for me. Look, we've already spoke about their sort of card value.
Yeah, not going to change. Nothing much is going to change from this. I suppose the next couple are those kind of card value. They're really not doing much. The Raptors got rid of Dragic. Goran is gone to the Spurs.
Yeah.
Nice for the Spurs. Get a bit of veteran leadership there.
Yeah.
Not that the likes of DeJounte Murray really need that, being an all-star this year, but and so what the Spurs got Goran and a first-round pick. They got rid of Thaddeus Young and Drew Eubanks.
Yeah.
And gave up a second-round pick. So, the Raptors and Spurs moving assets around and sort of shuffling, I don't think there's much from that really, I don't know.
What are the Spurs doing? So they get rid of DeRozan, then in 6 months later they get Dragic? Are you going for a youth movement, or are you getting veterans in to help them? It's that to me is really confusing.
I don't think this is the final move. But the Spurs got a first round pick.
Yeah,
I think that's what the Spurs wanted. They wanted a better draft pick.
Yeah, and look, it might simply be coming down to that, but
they might just be moving up the draft board. Yeah,
the Spurs have a very particular player that they like.
Yeah,
and is it possible that Dragic is one of these players?
Yeah. Possible. And look, Popovich is renowned for liking styles of play.
Yeah,
and getting people into their system.
Character players, locker room guys, and
correct players that will buy in. I guess. Yeah, call them buy-in players more than anything. If they're going to play in the system and follow the rules, they'll. Yeah, it could be interesting.
So Dragic's an expiring contract too, so that's.
Oh, is he?
So essentially, they've got rid of money and picked up a first-round pick.
First-round pick and got rid of some money, and next year they've got, more salary cap to play with. So the Spurs might be making some moves. Yeah,
so he's been tied to the Mavericks because it was actually reported that he was going to have a buyout with the Raptors and go to the Mavericks. And that was in the off-season. And that never happened. So that was not false reporting, but essentially reporting that happened too soon.
That could be up in the air. Dragic could be on the buyout market.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
And
we're going to talk about Dallas in a minute too, so that's also pretty well timed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. So before we talk about Dallas, I might just skip. We'll just run through these very quickly. the Suns dealt for Aaron Holiday,
Yeah.
which is one of the 27 Holiday brothers,
Yeah.
/ cousins / everybody that's on a holiday by Washington.
I mean, really quickly, that's a really good trade for the Suns because they're trying to win now, and that guy's a two-way player, and he's also like a big wing that can help them defend across position. So I love this. This is
you
really
like
good.
that? It's good cash move. Look, the Wizards got some.
In terms of card value wise, look, he's not going to move the needle very much. If you've got his stuff in your PC, it might go up 5 or 10% because he has a deep playoff run. But
if you are an Aaron Holiday, if that's your main PC. Right, we'll give you a whole episode to say whatever you like about Aaron Holiday because I can't imagine he's not the first Holiday that would be collected.
There's a couple of guys out there.
Actually, what if people's PC is the Holiday Rainbow? They get all of the holidays. Drew, Justin, Aaron, just get all the holidays.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, more Suns news.
Yep.
Torrey Craig, back to the Suns. Pacers got Jalen Smith for some cash and picks for a second-round pick. There it was. Yep. Nothing huge there. Jalen Smith, any movement there?
I really love him as a prospect. And I've already spoken about buying Phoenix in PYTs because, I like to get at least 2 teams. And also, too, I love, a nice Smokey to sort of see in the background. The problem with him going to Indiana is they've already got Goga. In their front court, I've already got Isaiah Jackson. They've got Goga and they've got Miles Turner. So he's moved from one super, veteran team to now a team that's got sort of a young sort of, logjam there. So honestly, I was hoping he would go to somewhere he'd get a bit more playing time. But he's the number 10 pick overall. So you can't say the guy hasn't got talent.
Well, Tristan Thompson's also, all right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, all right. He's gonna be back quite a bit.
Look, I'm still buying Jalen Smith. I think he's at the prices he's currently sitting at the moment. I still think he's a buy. Do I think he's a home run? Definitely not. But
Torrey Craig.
Look, card value wise, nothing. It doesn't do anything for me at all. I'm not buying him. I'm not selling him. I'm not holding him. I probably put them in my kid's handbag. You know what I mean? Whereas,
but you wouldn't do that to your children, would you?
Oh, come on!
Imagine that going to daycare and it's like, what's this? Some quality. Some of those LaMelo Ball hoops rookies.
As long as they're shiny, that's all they care about. Whether it's LaMelo or Torrey Craig, that doesn't fuss them, mate. Honestly.
It's true.
Look, I think basketball-wise, Phoenix has helped themselves now, so I think that's sensible for them. And also, they weren't going to bring Smith back, so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we got some juicy stuff. Well, Montrezl Harrell to the Hornets. That's probably not a bad trade.
Yeah.
Ish Smith and Vernon Carey Jr. going to the Wizards, along with a 2023 second-round pick. The Washington Wizards have given up Montrezl Harrell. And much going to move here.
I have nothing to say about this trade.
Yeah, no one was Montrezl is probably as far as the league goes. Montrezl is okay, but he's probably not setting the world on fire. A couple of sort of mid-level pieces that are being moved around, just positioning, really, I guess.
Look, he'll help them score in their front court and give them some different options. They just sort of seem very one-dimensional, the Hornets. So I think that's good for them. But hobby-wise, honestly,
all right.
Yeah, let's
hobby-wise, this next one is huge. Is it a bit juicy?
Yeah, it barely fits on my screen.
Bucks get Ibaka in 4-team trade, February 10th. So the Milwaukee Bucks get Serge Ibaka, a second-round pick from Sacramento, a second-round pick from Detroit, and cash considerations from the LA Clippers. The Clippers get Rodney Hood from Milwaukee, Semi Ojeleye, and someone that I can't even click on their name because is it Vanya Marinkovic?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a good sign when you don't have your own NBA.com page, is it?
Yeah, correct. It's there's no link to you, which probably means you're not playing in the league.
That's a deep, deep cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I mean, look, it'd be rarer still, I guess, to find cards if the player hasn't got a profile.
Yeah.
So the Clippers got that, and the Kings, who have been doing all kinds of stuff, have now got Dante DiVincenzo,
Yeah.
Josh Jackson from Detroit, Trey Lyles from Detroit, David Michinu from another
No.
underlined player
Yeah. Yeah.
from the Clippers, and a second round pick from Detroit.
Yeah.
So Detroit have given quite a bit up here. And the Pistons got Marvin Bagley.
Yeah.
Now, let's unpack all of this.
Yeah.
Aside from the players that don't have a hyperlink, wow. Serge Ibaka on the Bucks.
Look, for me, that's the most important piece basketball-wise that got moved because, like, the Bucks are trying to win again.
On court, this is the piece, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of sort of critics or commentators I heard in the last 24 hours basically saying that he's not moving that well, he's not doing this, he's not doing that. But you think about how much Brook Lopez, how mobile that guy was before his injury.
Yep.
They just set their defense to a drop defense. He shot the ball when he was open. He rebounded. He's a smart player. Pretty much this is what Serge Ibaka can do with his eyes closed.
Yep.
And that probably also means to me that Lopez isn't coming back anytime soon. So
yeah, might be a backup.
I think, you might even see Ibaka starting.
Look, he's definitely that caliber player, so that doesn't surprise me.
Good for the Bucks for just trying to, strengthen their team. Interesting that they gave up on Ojale so early, though. Like, were they half a season on him and they've seen enough, like, let's move this kid on. So that's really interesting. So if you PC that guy, actually, to me, that's really bad news. I think that's it for that guy.
Semi Ojale?
Yeah, look, Boston's given up on him. The Bucks have given up on him. I think that's it.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. Just ring the bell. Yeah.
Maybe at least as long as he doesn't lose his hyperlink, he's going to be doing better than a couple of the other players, right?
Yeah.
Josh Jackson, Trey Lyles, like Dante DiVincenzo.
Trey Lyles doesn't, do a lot for me. Josh Jackson, I think there's been a lot of people, super heavily invested in this guy. You're probably hoping that he was going to bloom in Detroit. That never really happened. I don't think it's going to happen in the Kings either. I don't actually see him sticking around in the Kings. I think he's going to be gone. So, I mean, the one that I'm probably most interested in is DiVincenzo because I can see him working together with Fox.
Okay.
Just for the fact he gives a little bit more size in the backcourt. He doesn't need the ball in his hands a lot. He just sort of, fits in. And I think being on the court at the same time with Fox and Sabonis, he'll just sort of do his thing and everything will be fine. And then on the other end, he'll defend and rebound. So I think that gives him like another pro to play with. The really interesting thing that I actually just forgot to mention 2 seconds ago is that Pat Connaughton's just broken his hand. So the Bucks took the gamble in giving up all that sort of backcourt depth for a big guy, assuming that, most of their, dogs are going to be healthy. But then, this really important piece has got injured. So that puts a lot of pressure on Wesley Matthews. That puts a lot of pressure on George Hill, Drew Holiday. So that's going to be super interesting to sort of see how that plays out for sure.
It's that's a lot. Yeah, injuries are going to play a big role this season, I think.
Yeah. So that takes us to Bagley, and where do you sit with Bagley? Buy, hold, sell. What are you thinking?
What are Detroit doing? Is my question, and I'm kind of asking it with sort of a double edged. I think they've got a plan, and they're going to try and build young.
Yeah.
Look, when you're a franchise Detroit's like historically quite a big franchise, but of recent sort of aren't the glamorous. You know what I mean? Like it's not the place to. You're not attracting big free agents.
Yeah.
There's no real nice way to say that. But what's your other option then? Is to build through the draft. Acquire some young assets and build a young core. That's what the Hawks have done. That's what the Warriors did. Do you know what I mean? Like teams are trying to build this young core to make a more attractive unit moving forward.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they've got Cade Cunningham. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got their guards. the young guards.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, there's a lot of work long ways to go, but I suppose it creates an opportunity. That's what you want as a young player, and I guess this is probably a lot more of an opportunity for Bagley in Detroit than it was going to be in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Sabonis was going to take the spotlight. Well, Sabonis and I didn't see him sort of getting the opportunities that he could. And Detroit being a struggling roster, or young and developing, not struggling. Let's be positive about it.
Yeah.
But like it gives him a fresh lease and an opportunity to develop. So anyone that's been holding on to Marvin Bagley, it's probably a bit of optimism. See what happens in the next couple of years. He might blossom.
Yeah.
Things can't get much worse.
Yeah. So listen to the prospects that Detroit have got. Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
Hamidou Diallo, Killian Hayes, Jeremy Grant. They've got Isaiah Stewart, Bagley, Saban Lee, Sadiq Bey. I'm not sad about that at all. I actually think if you're a Pistons fan, there's a lot to tune into and there's a lot to be happy about.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about what the Pistons gave up to get Bagley, you would do that 99 times out of 100.
Yep.
I think, in terms of yes, the guy wasn't the right draft pick at 2, but the guy's got a lot of potential. There's a reason why he went at pick number 2, right?
He's still a top 10. In my eyes, he's still a top 10 draft pick.
So I think for me, the thing is, at the moment, Bagley's a buy. For me, Bagley is a very strong buy.
He's going to get opportunities.
Recently purchased an iMac RPA of his for $50 delivered. And
nice.
I personally think that's one of the better buys I've done for a very, very long time.
Yep.
I did put it into a break as a skunk prize, and I'm not going to lie to you. I was kind of like, do I keep this for myself or do I put it into the break? You know what I mean? I was sort of like, do I just slide this into my PC? But yeah, at those prices and that much potential, and now he's gone to a team where, this to me is really, really, really good. So now in saying that, in the next 18 months, if this hasn't panned out, that's it. Fire sale, Bagley, you're done, cut your losses and just move on, because if he's not going to flourish here, where is he going to flourish? Yeah.
Yep. Turkey.
Yeah.
The European leagues. I don't know. Find it. I'm not. No. All right. I haven't mentioned Anthony Bennett for a very long time, so it's okay.
I don't think he's Anthony Bennett, man.
And he was a number 1 pick, not a number 2. Anyway. You're right. I think Bagley, this is his opportunity. This is his time to shine.
Yeah.
He's got a young core of players. They can have a lot of fun, do some growing, and let's hope that all those people that are holding Bagley see some growth in their PC.
Oh, look, I would put him down as a buy personally. Hold and buy. I think. Yeah. It's a bit like Detroit picking him up for what they paid for him. What have you got to lose? You can spend way, way, way worse money on cards at the moment than on Marvin Bagley.
Yeah. But Ibaka and Bagley probably the biggest bits of news, both hobby and on the court wise.
Look, I think court wise, Ibaka is
court wise it's Ibaka, but hobby wise,
I'm not touching Ibaka, man. Honestly,
I don't think anyone's ever touched Ibaka on the hobby on the hobby side of things, but I think prospecting on Bagley makes sense.
Yeah.
Bit of Celtics news next. February 10, making some moves.
Yeah,
we had is it Daniel Tice back to the Celtics?
Yeah,
and the Rockets got Schroeder, who was expecting a big contract from the Lakers at the start of the year and is now playing for Houston. Ennis. Is it Ennis Freedom? Is that Ennis Cantor?
So it's Ennis Cantor. He's changed his name to Ennis Freedom. Yeah, it's a bit like when Ron Artest changed his name to
Meta World Peace. I preferred Meta World Peace, but Ennis Freedom isn't that like a vax thing? I don't know. I'm not even going to touch that.
I don't think it's a vaccine thing. I think he's very politically motivated, and he's had a lot of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he's had a lot of trouble with the Turkish government and the Chinese government. He's not afraid to speak out.
Outspoken and yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And Bruno Fernando are all playing in Houston.
So this is the salary dump we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets, to facilitate this, they had to waive DJ Augustine and someone else. So
Yep.
there's a fair bit of like moving deck chairs there. Look, yeah,
I don't think this has got much in hobby wise. I don't think there's much happening here.
no, I think
The
look,
buyout market, maybe Schroeder. I think Schroeder might get bought out. Is he on a 1-year deal?
yeah,
So Schroeder Schroeder might end up back on the Lakers. Anyway,
I think they've got enough point guard problems already, haven't they, mate?
well, they started benching Westbrook, haven't they? Anyway, not going to get into my train wreck of a team. The Celtics.
Let's
They've
move on.
also now. I think this is an interesting one.
Yeah,
So they've given Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford
yeah,
to the Spurs. The Spurs are also getting a 2022 first rounder, protected via Boston, and a 2028 first round pick swap with the Spurs. Derek White is going to Boston.
yeah.
Is this why you're confused at what the hell the Spurs are doing?
Look, I actually think getting rid of Derek White is a good move because he's not particularly big, he's not particularly athletic, and he's not shooting well this year. So
He's a backup point guard, isn't he?
what does this guy do? And I think he has sort of this reputation around the league being a shooter, but if you look at his statistics this year, he's really not shooting that well.
No.
So I think,
So what is he? What is he? Is he a combo guard or is he a point?
yeah, he's like a point. I mean, look, but if you're the Spurs and you get rid of someone who's not playing well and you get 2 picks and you get 2 prospects, like, I'm okay with this. I mean,
Yeah.
hobby-wise, what stands out for you here, mate?
Derek White might get a fresh lease of life in Boston.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Like, not that there'd be many people. I mean, he's a first round pick. It's late first round, but there might have been people prospecting on White just because of, I guess, the pedigree of being put into the Spurs system.
yeah.
But he hasn't been performing, and anyone that has been holding on to them. Maybe he does get a bit of an opportunity in Boston.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of bizarre things happening with that roster in Boston. So, I mean,
I think he's going to get off to a really slow start in Boston because the Celtics are actually playing really well at the moment. Like,
look, he's going to struggle to gel to start with.
They have completely turned their season around, and the other thing they've done too is they've done it at the defensive end. So, like, I think they're going defensive first. So bringing him in, I think he's going to play bit minutes at best. Like, I think maybe 13 to 14 minutes a game is what I would imagine he's going to be. So in terms of like hobby wise, I don't really see the needle moving here at all.
I don't see it dropping, I guess is probably what I was alluding to.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, so for me, the person who I'm the most invested in out of these guys here is Langford. So I went through this period of I still have an obsession with it, but
it's because his first name's Romeo.
The Prism fast break variants, the fast break ones.
Yep.
I really like those because I like them because they're actually like 50 times rarer than a silver Prism.
Oh, wow.
And they're the variant card. But to buy them, you're paying like, say, I don't know, half of what you pay for a silver. So that sort of equation in my head I just love that.
I like it. I like your thinking on it too.
The value is here and they're a rare card. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay. Anyway, so I was just lowballing people on ComC for these. So I actually picked up a few Langfords. And I actually like him too because I think he's got size. He's got a good handle. I think he could become an NBA player that matters. His problem, the way I see it, is like Boston, let's be honest, they've been a bit of a mess the last couple of years, the way that they've brought all these prospects in and out, and they've had such short leashes on guys, and they've had so many draft picks that it was this kind of like hyper competitive soup bowl of all these kids just like, what was going on? I mean, the downside of him being traded to the Spurs is that the Spurs are a little bit the same. Like, I think they're going to be very sort of hyper competitive again with so many young prospects there. So am I expecting him to now become, a hot commodity? Probably not, but I'm still hoping for the best for this guy, just for the fact that he's going to the Spurs, one of the best franchises in professional sports, period. So
one of the, it is, it's a great system. So he's going to a very successful, structured
Yeah.
System. One of the greatest coaches of all time in
Yeah.
Greg Popovich. So
Look, I
yeah,
think if you see a price that you can't go past on Langford, just buy it, put it away, and come back to it in a couple of years because I
yeah,
think he's a really nice prospect. I think he's an NBA player, and if he doesn't stick in the league, I'm going to be actually pretty surprised. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess we're down to as far as the interesting trades go.
I've actually got like a hot take about this.
All right, so we're going to get to the obviously the last one is going to be the big one, but this is sneaky a big trade.
Yeah,
The Dallas Mavericks have got Davis Bertans
yeah,
and Spencer Dinwiddie in exchange for a second round 2022 pick and Kristaps Porzingis.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Everyone was like Zinger and Luca. That's going to
yeah,
be the dynamic duo. They're going to be so good. And they did. Don't get me wrong. They looked amazing in year one together. They played some great games and then stuff just didn't work.
yeah,
And Kristaps is, yep, they've taken the styrofoam cone off his nose because he's not a unicorn. And yeah, he's just a really tall guy that is up and down like every other basketballer.
yeah.
Um, yeah, like I didn't see this coming. Like I didn't think that it was that bad that they get rid of him. But yeah, Mavericks
I,
making moves. Luca's not happy.
I think this is the LeBron James going to the front office. He walks in and says, "I'm not happy with this player," and then the next week that player's gone. So there was a lot of rumblings that those two didn't see eye to eye,
Yep.
and that and Luca is king. Like, let's be honest, hobby wise and on the court wise, there's nothing to debate here. Do you know what I mean? Like, so
I, I think you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think Luca has gone to the front office and said, "You need to fix this."
yeah, definitely. I can't
Yeah,
wait. That's all going to come out too. That's just a matter of time because Porzingis is not scared to speak up about this and that. So,
hobby wise, does this impact
so
apart from the giant tank that Porzingis' cards is going to take?
yeah. Look, I was going to say, and I need to be like graceful in the way that I say this, just for the fact there could be some listeners that have a pretty large Porzingis PC, but I think this is terrible, terrible news.
This is Look, I mean, we're not putting it down. It's just like it is what it is. I think if you collect Porzingis and look, there's been a lot of good reasons to collect him in the past, but this is we thought Dallas was the right fit when it first happened, and things haven't really played out that way. Is there a second wave here where we're looking at, I suppose, two sides of the same coin, but in different. Oh, I suppose two opposite sides of the coin when you think about it. But Damian Lillard and Luka Doncic in very similar boats, where they're sort of like the Trailblazers front office is like, we're done. Like, Dame, sorry, we've done everything we can. We're just blowing up the roster now. Where the Mavericks are doing the opposite and trying to do everything to keep their star.
Not sure, mate.
Which
Yeah,
one of these two land in New York?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. Do you mean that Luca's going to be in New York?
I reckon New York. I reckon Luka is not happy.
No,
And this
I
is
don't
the
think
first
so.
move to say that Luka's not happy.
I would say the opposite. I think Luca's going to be like Dirk in Dallas. It's going to be a 20.
Oh, really?
It's going to be a 20-year romance. He's going to like run that town, and he can have anything he wants. And Cuban will buy him like some, you know, desert island in the middle of the ocean that's all off the books and tax free and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like this.
Yeah,
No,
all right.
yeah,
I take your meaning on that. I feel like you see things like, and I'll use Portland as the example of where loyalty gets you sometimes. Like, Damian Lillard is just looking at this powder keg about to go off, and it's obviously it's not a powder keg, it's a Diet Coke keg.
it's a Diet Coke, man.
It's about to blow up.
Can I give you my breakdown of this trade?
Yes.
Because I actually think this is a really interesting observation of the NBA in its current form. Because I think in the past you would value big men,
Mm-hmm.
but that has completely gone a 180, and now that guard play is so much more like valuable. So I think the Dallas thinking is it gives them another playmaker and ball handler, and essentially a better version of Jalen Brunson, which they weren't going to be afford to re-sign in the off season. So I think that means Brunson's
Yeah.
out in Dallas and Dinwiddie comes in because Dinwiddie's not an expiring contract, so there's no salary cap relief coming here.
No, it's actually like an asset acquisition.
Yeah. So,
It's
and then
actually,
I
yeah,
think
fair.
they're going to try and put like, cheaper pieces, into that sort of Porzingis mold, which I think around the league is pretty well, that's almost consensus now. Like, you can get big guys for cheap that are, reasonable players that are going to give you as much productivity as someone who's getting paid $20 million a year. So I think that's, really, really interesting. In terms of hobby wise, we've already spoke about Porzingis. Dinwiddie is actually a really interesting one because he's been a hyper talented guy that's really struggled with the injuries. If he goes into Dallas and is healthy and that team makes a deep playoff run, I think he could have a lot of movement just for the fact. I mean, I'm stating the absolute obvious here, but if you are a new listener to our show or you're just getting into card collecting, the most important, I think, takeaway you need to like keep in mind from card collecting is that the card values literally go up and down daily depending on how the player is performing on the court. So Dinwiddie has so much potential for movement here. And I think in terms of high and low ceiling, Dinwiddie out of all of these players is probably that person who's got the highest and lowest ceiling moving forward. Because if he's injured and he's sitting behind Luka, that's terrible. But if they play together, which I think they can do,
Yeah, for sure.
that's super interesting. And if they make a deep playoff run because they're unstoppable together, because now you've got someone helping Luka, like
Yeah.
that to me is like really, really interesting. So yeah, I can't wait to watch the Mavericks play. Actually, I feel like there's so much basketball I need to catch up on now. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah,
all
it's
these like
it's going to be
new
interesting.
teams and new like I want to watch Philly, I want to watch Nets, I want to watch like Mavericks and Kings. I want to watch more Kings at the moment. So
Yeah, there's a lot of I'm actually curious to see what the Wizards look like. They've made a lot of moves.
Well, Beal's out for the rest of the year, right? He's had
Yeah, true.
wrist
True, true.
surgery.
True,
I
true.
actually think Porzingis won't play for the rest of the year, and
Man.
they're going to be going for another high draft pick. Man, I think they're going to be a
They've got
mess.
to, yeah, I guess they've got to fish.
Yeah.
Are there any other trades? Anything else that sort of happened?
I feel like you've led all the other ones in. How about I lead this one in, and then you can have the first writer response? How does that sound, man?
That sounds great. I didn't know that there was another trade.
One more.
There's one more. Okay. Oh,
One more.
good. Strap in. I'll strap in.
If we were some like camp podcast that had sound effects, we'd have like a drum roll or something now.
Yeah.
All right. So look, the big one is the last one. It's Philadelphia acquiring James Harden. And to get Harden, they gave up a lot. They gave up Simmons. They gave up Seth Curry, who I've definitely got a man bromance for this year. Andre Drummond, a 22 first-round pick, and a 2027 first-round pick.
Now, you said they gave up a lot. What has Ben Simmons done for the Philadelphia roster this year?
Well, I think it's a lot because he's young and he's under contract for the next 4 years. I think that's very valuable.
Yeah.
I think that, again, we spoke about, the way the NBA landscape has changed. Like,
true.
He is an NBA player that suits the current game in terms of defensive flexibility. He's a big guy that can run the break. He can, facilitate. He can do a lot of different things. Like, I think Ben Simmons is a good NBA player. He's clearly got issues, but
well, my question is, what happens now when he arrives in Brooklyn?
I think it's going to be super funny if he plays this week. Like, I think the comedy value to that is not.
Do you think he's ready to go?
Man, I think
physically, is he ready to go?
The issue with him is never being physical. I think it's been publicly stated he's seeking mental health counseling and assistance. Right, so I think.
Well, all right. So this is where, like, I don't want to tread insensitively.
No, definitely not.
Is it genuine though?
Well, that has also been suggested too.
There's a lot of, and this is where he's either got some serious mental health problems and genuinely has everybody's support because it's a serious issue. But if he's taking the piss, that is the most infuriating thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think that if he is doing that, I think that's not behaving in an appropriate way. And I think that's the best way to say it.
I think it's deplorable behavior if he is sort of using it as an excuse.
I'm not too sure if I said this on the last pod, so just stop me if I did or if I said it on one of my breaks, but I was on holiday last week and I watched the documentary This Magic Moment, which is about the Orlando Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that stuck out in my mind the most was the Nick Anderson free throws against Houston in the finals that year. So he missed 4 free throws in a row.
Yep.
And essentially they said his career was never the same again.
Yep.
And I think in some ways, Simmons passing up that dunk is almost his Nick Anderson moment where
it's potential, yeah.
That it could change his career, that every time he sort of goes to drive the lane, he's thinking about, shooting free throws as opposed to like stuffing this ball on someone's head. You know what I mean? So
it's tough. And look, we can only dream and imagine what it would be like to be in that situation. But one would think as a professional athlete, there's an expectation of ridicule, of all of the pressures that he faces on a daily basis and the millions of dollars he gets paid to make sure he keeps those in check.
Yeah.
I just feel like this season, I don't know. It just feels like he's not doing anything because he's staying so wrapped up and secluded from the world. Like he's not coming out and going, I am getting better. I'm like noting his progress. He's sort of just hiding behind a shroud. It's such a gray area. It's tough.
Yeah. Look, I think to be honest, probably in this situation, saying nothing is a lot easier than facing the media on a daily or weekly basis. Like I think that would be.
This is also where people get paid to represent him.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So he's got no people in his PR camp trying to paint him in a positive light.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help things at all.
We might not know the truth is for 20 years. Like he might write an autobiography in 20 years and say, look, actually,
this is what happened.
Yeah, I was in this depression. I was feeling anxious all the time. I was having panic attacks. Like I think, if we're completely segueing into like the subject of mental health in professional athletes, I really think Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan, to me, are the 2 most important people who've actually made so much progress in this space. Because if you haven't read the article that Kevin Love wrote about his panic attacks on the Cleveland bench, I strongly urge you to do it. It is the only way I can describe reading that is harrowing, and the way he describes it is incredibly realistic, and it is like it's just something that you don't understand it until you've either, I would say, read that article or had it happen to yourself. Do you know what I mean? So I think,
I know. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like living with anxiety, panic attacks. Just it's not easy, and that's why I think I would be very angry if he's using it as a front.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying it would be disappointing if he's taking the. 100%. If he's going through it, my heart goes out to him, and like I hope he
gets better.
He can make it back onto the court. But
you
know what I mean. If you kind of if you're not there, you're just using it as a throwaway excuse because you don't want to face things.
Yeah.
And things backfired when you spat the dummy and demanded a trade.
Yeah.
Because look, the way things have played out, there's evidence in both camps to suggest both.
Yeah.
But look, benefit of the doubt. Obviously, hindsight will be 2020 when we find out one day down the track what happened.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, there have been a few memes going around, but yes, it'd be nice to see Ben Simmons take the court again. That said, you're right. The Nets got a lot from Philadelphia in exchange for James Harden, and I think the Sixers are missing a piece, and they really genuinely believe this is that piece.
Yeah,
this is their championship hopes because they've got one player and they've given up quite a bit. I think Seth Curry's probably, and even Drummond, but like those pieces, they're all big pieces.
Yeah.
Simmons may not have taken the court, but Brooklyn's acquired quite a lot of firepower right now.
Yeah, that's right. I think firepower is the right word because...
And well, look at the picks as well. Like it's, I don't know. Brooklyn looks scary. They've got to get off their slide because they've had a bit of a struggle of recent.
So I think we've segued so much. Like, where do we start? So, hobby-wise, what do you think is important here?
I'm looking like, all right. So hobby-wise, and I spoke to a friend who PCs Simmons.
Yeah.
Today, and he started to get. He said he's already been putting up a few cards for sale here and there, and he's starting to get what he thinks is fair value for his Simmons cards that he thought he was going to get nothing back for.
Yeah.
So hobby-wise, I think this could be a little bit of a resurrection on the not quite getting money back on your Ben Simmons collection, but this is the potential of not getting single-figure cents on the dollar.
All right. I'm going to ask you, what do you think that Card Ladder is doing at the moment? Is it down,
I reckon Simmons is going to be spiking.
up, or neutral?
Up.
For the last 3 buns, his lowest was 112. Last sold was 250. That's for a PSA 10 base rookie. That's super interesting. That says a lot, actually.
Wow.
So I think that, to me, says that he's going to be back soon and he's going to be making an impact.
And just look at it. It's a spike. It's a literally trade day spike.
Yeah. Look, I personally think Simmons is the most significant hobby piece out of this. I think James Harden is universally disliked in the hobby field.
So can we have a chuckle about James Harden?
Of course we can.
Did you see the All-Star draft?
Oh, yeah.
Where LeBron kept trying to get KD to pick James Harden, and all of them just were giving pats on the back to every other player in the pool. It was like hours after James Harden had been traded, KD just didn't want to say his name. But it was it was quite funny to watch.
I actually thought KD was pretty professional about it, because he was saying, like, so I saw the video of him when he was choosing Gobert. He's like, oh yeah, we need a big guy. We need someone who can defend, someone who can rebound. And then LeBron is just like sitting there like killing himself laughing. That was actually very decent TV.
It was actually quite funny. I still feel like LeBron was a bit butthurt that KD picked Morant. So he's like, that's it. I'm gonna stitch you up fierce. I'm just gonna keep not picking Harden. But yes, I think Simmons is on an uptrend for sure, and that's what the figures say over the last few days.
Yeah.
And look, this is time for that submarine to start rising, I guess.
Well, it's happened, man. Like, it's incredible, isn't it?
Yep. And that's look, it's amazing what happens when a move's made. Everyone he wanted out. I guess a segue to that is I've noticed a lot of we'll call them fringe basketball fans that don't support a team so much as they follow their favorite players.
Yeah.
But yes, the first thing that came out of my Simmons friends was, "Oh, we're going to be watching a lot more Brooklyn now." And I'm like, "I thought you went for Philly," and they're like, "No, we go for whatever team our favorite players play on, or they just want to watch that team."
Yeah, but I don't fault people for that, though.
Like, I don't fault them.
Players get traded so much now. They move so frequently. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah.
You sort of hear a lot of the older sort of like commentators talking about this. It's like, oh, hang on a second. Like, if you like Kyrie Irving, like, you're not going to not watch him just because he moves teams. Like, I'm totally fine with that. Like, yeah.
No, I mean, because I'm obviously a diehard Lakers fan.
Yeah.
I go for the Lakers, but I love watching the Bucks play. I love watching, you know what I mean? Like, I like watching entertaining basketball.
Yeah.
But I bleed purple and gold.
Yeah.
Right. And if the Boston Celtics are succeeding, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
Because they're a rival team.
Yeah.
But if Tatum's going off, it's great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I understand that side of it, but it's just funny where it's like, all of a sudden these people are like, we're not watching Philly anymore because Ben Simmons got traded.
Yeah,
Philly are going to be amazing with Harden at the, like, Harden running the show.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be the guy. Embiid can be the guy. Harden just wants to win. And I'll tell you what, Embiid's probably not going to laugh at him about having a few extra kegs on. He'll probably sit down and have a burger with him. Let's be real.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I really struggle to comprehend how these professional athletes get around like that. So I don't understand how these athletes get into that shape. The only thing I'll say about Harden is my lasting memory of last year's playoffs is him playing on one leg.
Yeah.
So I actually wonder if his demise from Brooklyn was more about Kyrie not playing and his frustration with dealing with that.
Yep.
And I think he needs to be in better shape. I definitely think that. But I would also say, too, I can understand his frustration with somebody who's only playing essentially a quarter of the season's games and you're out there playing injured. Like, so, you know, in terms of his commitment to a team, you know, Philadelphia is getting somebody he's a baller. Like, for whatever you want to say about this guy in terms of, you know, hobby value and how he's disliked and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know.
He's a flat-out baller.
Yeah.
He is, Yeah.
What do you think about his 20-year value? Because he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's
James Harden.
Whether he makes it into the whether he becomes a champion or not, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's got MVP. He's got a scoring title.
I'm trying to think of a comparison.
Because I actually wonder if our disrespect or our dislike of him in the hobby community is actually really undervaluing this guy in terms of his sort of like long-term value.
Who do I comp him with? Hall of Fame level. Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? I was going to say Jason Kidd. I've mentioned him once already on the show today. But do you know what I mean? Like, there's no insanely expensive Jason Kidd cards, but that guy was phenomenal. What about Nash? But I guess they're different types of players. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that nobody really PC'd him, so it's not.
So if you use Nash, it's not a terrible one because Nash didn't win a championship.
Yep.
But
one MVPs, yep.
He won 2 MVPs, so that's probably the only difference, right?
Yep, that's fine. We can use that as a basis of comparison. Yeah.
Yep. So
yep.
No, actually, I'm going to almost retract everything that I just said. So his last sale for a PSA 10 base was $1,000 US.
That's Topps Chrome, yeah?
Yeah. So the question is, would you buy 5 Simmons or 1 Harden at the same clip? Let's say 4 Simmons by the time you do postage.
I'm still going to buy. I'm probably not investing in Simmons. I'm too worried about Simmons now. But yeah, it's tricky, isn't it?
While you're thinking, can I just do a little bit of spruiking in the background?
You can spruik away.
So actually, there's a little bit of news coming up. So there's the Hobby Hangout in Melbourne, which is literally only days away, really.
Well, it's a week away. Yeah, but this time next week, I'll be getting ready to go to the Hobby Hangout.
Yeah. So I think we should definitely, not advertise. Well, advertise it. That's fine, isn't it? We should just remind people that please get your ticket.
If you haven't got one, get one for sure.
Yeah, so it's the 20th of February. Yeah. And it's in Melbourne. You're going, aren't you, mate?
I am going.
Yeah, I'm definitely going. And we won't be there in an official capacity, but we'll definitely be there. So we'd hope to see some of you guys and say hi. Come and say hi to us, please. We'd love that.
We'll be going up and saying hi to people.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to spruik this week was that I did a collaborative break with Seba Tomeo on Cash Money Breaks. We broke a case of Flawless together, and nice. I just wanted to publicly thank Seba because the way that it all played out was just seamless. It all went very smooth, and I think that obviously people who didn't hit aren't going to be happy, but I think the general response to the break was really, really good. So. Look, to be honest, I want to thank everyone, but I also just want to give a shout out to Seba just for the fact that we had this beautiful deal that went down. So that was fantastic. Are you still Googling? Or
look, I'm trying to find players. I'm trying to find players to compare him to. I can't. I'm lost. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, not even. No, I was going to say Dwayne Wade. I don't actually think there is a comparison, the 20-year comparison to Harden. I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think I think his I don't know. Well, you wouldn't call it the fact that he's unpopular, but I don't know. There's just something about him. He's not. I think it hurts his long-term value.
Maybe this is the case of internet trolls just getting to us, right?
Yeah.
$1,000 for a base PSA 10 is not small change.
Mm-hmm. This is true. But you look at Harden.
Yeah, that's Harden. 1K.
Yeah, right. So for a
US.
tops, yeah.
Right?
PSA 10. Yep. And he's actually dropped.
Yeah, he is down. I didn't mention that just for the fact that
he's down 30%.
Yeah, but it goes up and down, right? I think with the NBA, I'm probably less worried about
30% drop from like almost 1,900 US to 1,000 US. That's a drop.
Yeah, but it's still $1,000. Like,
yeah, that's true. It's true. Yeah,
and for all the the hobby hate that he gets, like that. I was expecting 400. Can I be honest with you?
Oh wow!
Even though it's dropped 30%, it's still double what I was expecting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, his cards definitely hold a bit of value. So you're right there.
Yeah.
You're right there.
Social call out at youcantcompthis on Twitter, youcantcompthis on Instagram, and we've also got a Facebook page, youcantcompthis. youcantcompthis@gmail.com. Please write us an email. First person who write an email gets their own podcast episode. We still haven't had that bounty filled yet, so
yeah, someone write in, tell us something crazy. Write in, give us something to talk about, something we'll dedicate an entire episode. Please make them PG friendly. We don't want to have to use the censor button too much.
We just want a love letter, really.
We could do that.
All I get in the current Gmail is spam, to be honest. So we want some legit email.
We do.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, I don't know. There's some good deals in that spam email. Opportunity knocks always. It seems
exactly.
But that it's been an interesting trade deadline. That's there's a little bit of value I think to be had in the hobby. Not a lot. I think there's a lot more on court stuff than hobby. But yeah, look, we'll I think next we're going to talk about the All-Star weekend next week.
Yeah, definitely. Next weekend, we're going to do a full rundown of the All-Star weekend, and I want to do a special on DeJounte Murray because I think first-time All-Stars deserve a little bit more love.
Yep. So LaMelo Ball's going to get a lot of plug time, isn't it? Yeah.
I think, to be honest, he deserves it too because even though he is the big dog of the the hobby world as of the last 12 months,
yep.
You could also be a little bit skeptical as to where he's going and is this sort of the big balloon that's about to burst. I think we can really delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah,
and we were having a bit of a chat with some hardcore Spurs fans, so I'm going to try and hook up with those guys again and see if they'll come on and have a chat.
Yeah, because either that or they'll send us a story. You know how what Spurs fans can be, like very reclusive and
that's
stick to their system. They stick to their system.
There's never any pressure to come on and chat to us, but I will say DeJounte Murray deserves his moment in the sun, and this is his moment. So
yeah. Actually, speaking of All-Star Weekend and trade deadline, given we've talked about the hobby,
talk to me.
Hopefully, I'll be on another podcast later in the week.
Great.
The podcast is called It Should Go Without Saying. It's a sports podcast. Basically, we're just going to talk about the on-court impact of the trade deadline and the upcoming All-Star game. So just more, not so much from a hobby perspective, but more of an NBA fan perspective. Rowdy heckler in the background. While I'll probably sit quiet. Let's be real, because they're going to bag the Lakers out for about 45 minutes to an hour. But
so they should.
Yes, but yeah, anyone that wants to listen to that, It Should Go Without Saying is the name of the podcast. And yeah, a lot of AFL, cricket, basketball, any sport, you name it. He's
okay.
Sort of
now I understand why I wasn't invited on. Multi-sport. Confusing. Don't worry, I'm coined as a resident NBA expert, so clearly they're scraping the barrel. But yeah, that's the trade deadline. Yep. Thank you everyone for listening. We're so grateful that you did tune in. Actually, we hit 500 downloads last week, mate. So I think that's worth
Nice.
mentioning. So thank you everyone for all of your support. We are eternally grateful that you would, even tune in for 20 listens, let alone 500. So
Yep.
thank you everyone. And thanks for your time today, mate. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
That was great. I'm a bit disappointed that I won't have my hashtag regulate the hobby t-shirts out and available, ready for the hobby hangout. But
Just get a white t-shirt and a permanent marker and
that's it.
everyone will know who you are.
I'll
Yeah,
be the
just
guy
go
with
old
the
school.
hashtag regulate the hobby t-shirt at the hobby hangout. Oh God. All right. Well, hopefully we see everybody down there.
Thanks, legend.
Thanks, mate.